How the heck are you, everybody? I am Fastidious, and welcome back to our new series, All Heroes Ranked. We kicked it off yesterday with the Nightmare faction. The way the series works is we go faction by faction, ranking all the heroes worst to first in a specific faction. So who is on the docket today? You can see behind us, we are doing Northerners. There are 24 of these bad boys to get through, so let's get into it. And do not forget, guys, this video is going to have a giveaway, just like every single other video in this series. 3 lucky people will get some free diamonds courtesy of Moonton. So thank you for Moonton. More info on that later in the video.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
Alrighty, folks, so right before we head into this list, there's one hero we have to talk about who's not going to be on the list, and that is Dagna. Dagna is a lord from the Northerner faction, but she is a rare, and as a hero, she is not that special. There's some tankiness, there's some self-healing, but these rare heroes have absolutely basement-based stats, and that kind of makes them unusable for anything beyond the very early game. There are 3 factions in the game that have rare lords in them. I wish every faction had a rare lord. Honestly, it would just make the game more accessible to a lot of people. But those 3 factions are Northerners, Cultists, and Watchers. They have respectively Dagna, Nero, and Borit. All 3 of those heroes, if you do not have an epic or legendary lord from those factions, you should absolutely save. Having a lord is extremely important, even if they are a boring rare. However, those heroes are boring rares, so I'm not going to actually break them down. They don't make the list, but let's see who does. Kicking it off with last place, number 24, drumroll. Who's it going to be? Voroth in dead last may actually surprise some people. The Northerner, North Throne, is actually a brilliant faction with very few bad heroes. However, there are 3 particularly bad heroes, and somehow, after all my thinking, I believe Voroth truly is the worst. Why is that? Well, for an epic, he's an epic fighter. For an epic, he has very high base stats. 20.7k HP. He's got over 5,000 attack. The defense is fine. It looks like he should be all right. Voroth, and kind of why I wanted to kick all with him, and I'm going to spend a little extra time on him, he is the perfect example of how important multipliers are. This should be an interesting hero. Great base stats. He has a talent that gives him specialized attack speed. That means the more attack speed you build on him, it will more dramatically decrease his attack interval, so he will go faster than that same amount of attack speed on a hero that does not have the specialized attack speed ability. This should all add up to a pretty good fighter, a nice bursty fighter, but actually, his multipliers are so terrible, deals 100 damage to one enemy. I mean, look at this. You increase the attack speed by 800 during his ultimate. You can get it a little higher, but there's no damage boost. All that happens is he starts doing double hitters. When you already have terrible multipliers, double hitting base attacks with no interesting passives, it does not add up to anything decent. Sure, there's a touch of chances for AoE. All in all, he's absolute dog water. Let's look at those rankings. It's going to be a lot of Ds, baby. A lot of Ds. I mean, look at this. This guy absolutely stinks. There is a reason he is number 24. So guys, now on to number 23. We only have 2 more absolute stinkers to get through before we get to some pretty good heroes. This is going to be Brunor. I know some people stan Brunor. Right off the bat, I'll say he's interesting and more relevant instantaneously than someone like Voroth because he's dual faction. He is both North Throne and Infernal Blast. That being said, there isn't that much more there. People will say, oh, but he's got this crazy range. He helped me a lot in Void Rift. That may be true, but he is for absolutely desperate situations. The damage, again, the multipliers are weak. He's not that interesting. He's very, very, very clunky. He is very slow. He is an L of a hero. He deserves to be number 23. You'll see some of our tier list rankings. By the way, we're on fastidious.gg. This is my website made by yours truly, and my amazing community is the most active community in Watcher of Realms. Check us out on Discord, where we're about to hit 4,000 members at the time of filming this. This website, incredible resource, best in the realm, and you will see we are constantly updating our tier lists. With Brunor, though, those letter tier grades tend to stay really low. The guy kind of stinks. The only place I find him relevant at all is going to be Void Rift and then Faction Trial, just because he is a platformer that deals some damage and he is dual faction. That automatically gives you a bump in my book because you can be built and then help 2 different faction trials, 2 different factions help the player succeed in them. And then Void Rift, that extended range, it's very niche, but it can help people. He's got that Setrum range. It's that big boy thing that then fills out into this giant square. All in all, bad hero, bad damage. On to the next, who is going to be number 22. I would say this is our last totally stinker of a hero, and you can probably guess who it's going to be. it is going to be Harpun. Harpunarama. He is not good. I wish he had dual faction membership in Piercer. That would make him more relevant. He does piercing damage. He is a marksman. He's kind of your typical single target damage dealing marksman. But without that dual faction membership, he just is a northerner with really, really bad, stinky single target damage. The reason I put him above the other two, he's got this with his ultimate. It's very, very cheap. You can see it goes down to, 240 skill cost, so you can spam it a lot. There are triple hitters, so he has some relevance when you want to spam hits, something like maybe the Styx boss, but the damage absolutely stinks, just like the other two we described. He can go quite fast. He's the kind of hero where you think he could work, but he doesn't. He actually does have a very high internal rating for rage regen based off of his attacks. So when he does basic attacks, he builds rage very quickly. So he can spam his ult a ton. That being said, it sucks. The damage is completely not there. It's a giant L. He is not good. Let's look at those ratings. The reason I do give him the bump is because he could be a little teeny bit relevant in Styx. He could be a little teeny bit relevant in Torrent. When I say teeny, I mean teeny. It's C's and D's across the board. We even threw some F's in there. This guy is very bad. Let's go on to some heroes that don't actually stink that much, because it gets pretty darn good pretty darn quickly. This is a very, very strong faction, especially for PvE, so non-player versus player stuff. This faction absolutely shines. Let's go down to number 21, rounding out our heroes outside of the top 20, and this is going to be Lightlocke. Another dual faction member hero. Lightlocke is a healer from the Northerners and the Watchers. He's very simple. He's an attack-based healer. He's got this kind of standard range, which can be kind of better for some things. He doesn't have that line behind him. There's not too much more there. He used to be an absolute hero, because you can see here with his ultimate Light of Courage, it's a very, very, very low cost. It goes down to only 100 skill cost. This is absolutely a typo. It's 120 base, goes down to 100 with skill ups. By far the cheapest in the game, so he's a great battery for Israel, taking advantage of her passive. But this thing also deals some magic damage. Back in the day, it could hit unlimited targets, so he was a huge, huge carry. Could bring you all the way to conquering gear raid 118, finally farm only mythic gear. That is how I did it. I covered Lightlocke a ton at the time. They did nerf this, so he's just a tiny bit of damage with solid healing, but he doesn't do much more than that. For a healer to shine in this game, as you're going to see with some of the better healers in this faction, you need other support capabilities. Lightlocke is aggressively mid. He earned this B. He is a very, very mid hero. We do give him the S for faction trials because there are not many healers at all for the Watchers, his other faction, especially if you're not lucky enough to pull the legendary Lord Leia. Very people do that. Lightlocke is someone you're going to use. He's 100% free. He's fusible from rare and uncommon heroes. He's exactly fine. There's nothing interesting here. Let's get on to the next. Let's head into our top 20. Who is number 20 gonna be? Let's see it. We have our first legendary, and it is, of course, Shamir. This is not to say Shamir is that bad. I told you, once we're in this top 20, even starting with Lightlocke, it's not like he's such a bad hero. It's really just those bottom three that are such utter dog water. But Shamir is not good. He is a big crowd control mage. He does lots of CC. He has his own special CC kind of thing that comes from his drowning water ability you can see over here. Namely, he can have very significant immobilize, which is essentially kind of a stun. It is a 100% slow. So he's got slowing capabilities, he's got immobilizing capabilities. He can be really relevant. If you get him all the way up to A5, but certainly you're going to want to get that A1, he can become more relevant, but the damage is not there. The stats are not there. There are better, cheaper, freer, easier sources of crowd control within his own faction that you can get on day 3. So for most content, Shamir is not that great. I will say he can absolutely shine in faction trials. He's a decided S+. For one, you need 3 Northern mages. At this point, only 3 of them exist. Also, his damage is good enough that it helps, and those immobilizes, if you spam him, if you build him really, really fast with some nice rage regen, he can be cycling really quick. He can do an amazing job. Kind of leave those people in their tracks. He can be very effective for that. Similarly with campaign, but you'll see for most stuff, he's just kind of meh. He's not that special. There's a reason he's the bottom ranked legendary in this faction. Let's go now to number 19. Who is it gonna be? Let's see. Another legendary, Sadie. Sadie's been getting some shine lately because she is good for Guild Boss 2. And I will tell you right off the bat, now that I've used her in Guild Boss 2, I will be bumping her up much higher, at least to A+. I don't think I'll bring her to S, but potentially S. She's much better than I thought. Her overall will probably come up to like a B+. That being said, Sadie is a healer that doesn't really heal. If you can get some awakenings or you get her exclusive artifact, that's great, then she can start healing. But basically her key thing is that with her ultimate, Ode to Time, allies in range will take half of the incoming damage. You can get this more improved with her skill ups, and then they will slowly lose HP over time. That gives you plenty of time with Sadie and other healers potentially to heal them back up. This is really, really nice, but it is expensive. You can see even with skill ups, it's 1100, and it's pretty darn niche. There's very little content where you absolutely need this for. Quite frankly, there is no content that you need this for. It can be used and with good effect, but that doesn't warrant more than like the B+ rating she's probably going to get bumped up to. All in all, I think Sadie is absolutely fine. There are entire strats for Gear 2 built around Sadie, so that's probably where she shines the most. She can be really nice in Void Rift, tanking the big AoEs from Lasir, for example, the end of that Phase 3 boss. Like I said, Guild Boss 2, she's a lot more relevant now, so I will up that grade. But basically, she's not that exciting. Unfortunately, she's kind of an L. Useless in PvP, so that is a big demerit against her. Now to the next one. Is it going to be another legendary hero? Let us see. Who is it going to be? We've got down at number 18, Falcia, another legendary, and the crazy part is an exclusive legendary. A limited hero that to guarantee you could get her, you needed to summon 250 times. I did it way back in the day. 250 single pulls for Falcia. The worst luck I ever had. Absolutely abysmal. If you want to cry or laugh at me, go watch that video, and it was not worth it. I will take full responsibility. I thought Falcia was going to be so much better than she turned out to be. I do still envision, I'm holding on to hope that content will be introduced that makes her relevant. She is very interesting. She is a dual damage type hero. She has hybrid damage. So you'll see if we look at her ultimate, for example, Shadow Slash deals 100% normal damage 5 times and 100% magic damage. So she is a physical damage dealer and a magic damage dealer. I thought there would be content that makes this relevant. One quick thing we can say, and she will get a bump here, for Guild Boss 2, this can be pretty good. It actually can. She can be a decently hard carry. She spams those hits very quickly. I mostly see people using her for Apocalypse 1, but she is able to be the primary DPS for your Apocalypse 1 team, frees up some more important heroes that you can bring over to Apocalypse 2. I think that is valuable, but all in all, she's kind of just not that good. The hybrid thing, there's no real use for it yet. And then the key thing is she's not a great member of the North Throne. She's not really a great Northerner hero. There's stuff in her kit where she gets better with shields. That's cool. But she really, we've been saying it since the beginning. I thought at the time it'd make her too OP. At this point, with some of the heroes we have, it certainly would not make her too OP. Give her dual faction membership. Let me know what you think in the comments. Give her dual faction membership in Nightmare. She's the speedy, hack and slash, flurry of hits fighter. She would look perfect in the Nightmare faction. For North Throne, she's kind of out of place. She doesn't synergize that well. I don't think she's that special, and that is reflected in the tier grades. It kind of is what it is. AMR, aka Artifact Material Raid. In my last video, people did not know what I was talking about. Saying Artifact Material Raid takes a while, so we stick to AMR here on this channel and on my website. But here with a flurry of hits, a big burst, she is very, very good. And then also in sticks, because she also has specialized attack speed, you can see over here, just like Voroth, she can go really quick. She's got a nice little burst here with 10 hitters, right? That comes 5 of each with her Shadow Slash. I actually used her on my original Styx teams, so she does have relevance there. Aside from that, she doesn't shine too many other places. She's a B+, she earned it. Hopefully we get content that you kind of need the hybrid thing, but for now, who cares? She's just not that special. Up next on our list, who are we going to have? Let's uncover it together. We're back to the epics. We have got Aveline. And you can see these heroes are getting good. Like, Aveline is not a bad hero at all. Another dual faction hero. Unfortunately, Falcia is not, but another epic from this faction that is dual faction. Just like Lightlocke, she is North Throne and Watchguard. That's pretty cool because she can be particularly relevant, I think, as a tank in Watchguard faction trials. All in all, she is not that good. I don't like her base stats that much. HP is very high. Defense is very low. That being said, with her kit, she can permanently increase her defense from her passive. Why then is she fairly in the middle of the list? It doesn't sound like I like her. Well, she absolutely shines in one vital place, and that is going to be she is a decided S+ in Hellfire Codex, the tank codex. Basically, this is the block codex. You need to be able to block as many people as possible, and she innately, at full promo, has 4 block. You can see it right here. Her 4 block on promotion, that makes her shine. It's really as simple as that. With 4 base block, good enough stats, throw a Bastion Ring on her, that's now 5 block. There's no condition. It's not like during the ultimate with some heroes we're going to see. It's not during some condition with a passive. It's just she happens to have base 4 block. She's the only hero in the game that has that. That makes her really special and really, really relevant for really meta endgame teams for one specific piece of content, that being Hellfire. Outside of that, she's got some stuns that can be kind of cool, so she's not like useless in Guild Boss 2. She's obviously not that good. She's a good tank for Gear 8 too, but so is nearly everybody. There's nothing too special going on here. Campaign she can be really, really nice because you're probably going to be running a Watcher team early on, and she certainly has high enough stats to get this stuff done. Usually when I'm talking about my campaign grades, I'm talking about chapters 1 through 8, not really 9, part 1 and 2. So she's absolutely fine. She's completely solid. And then for Hellfire Codex, the Tank Codex, the Block Codex, she is goated beyond belief. That is why she earns this spot on our list. Let's see now who is going to be up next. I make this list, I go through it a few times, but then, I cover it all up. So I'm like, I have a sense of who's coming, but I'm equally surprised, just like you guys. Up now is Rork, our first Lord coming up on this list, not counting our little disclaimer about Dagna at the beginning. Rork is a brand new addition to the game. He is a fighter, and he is a Lord. He's the second ever epic Lord for the Northerners. So there's actually 5 Lords in this faction, 2 epics, 2 legendaries, and Dagna. Rork is really solid. He does HP-based damage, just like all the other HP-based damage dealers, not that there are many. It's basically, he's the only pure one. And then all the defense-based damage dealers, the damage is not that good. However, the rest of the kit supports him well enough. He can be very, very tanky. He's got this nice base range of 2 tiles in front. He's got the exact same Lord skill, the epic version of the Northerner Lord skill, just like Isolde. That's pretty darn nice. All in all, he's an absolutely solid hero. Decent damage, good tankiness. He gives a lot of shields, which I really, really enjoy. Good stats. I like the guy. He's not crazy, but he's solid. You can see these ratings. He's an A+. We're jumping up now to really high-quality heroes. There's not really anything he's bad at, per se, that he should be good at. He kind of does the job. He's not the best at anything, but he's pretty darn good at a lot. He's really good in Gear 8 too. He's very good in AMR. He can shine in Void Rift. He's obviously amazing in Faction Trials. He's a Lord. He's just absolutely solid. He was a free epic shard summoning hero, so that kind of fusion, I think he was a great addition to the game. Happy to have him. I will say, one place he actually does kind of shine, it takes special gear, but he can be really good in Gear 8-5. If you need him on the left, he actually can get the job done. It's clunky, and it might take a ton that you don't have. Also, potentially on the bottom, he is not irrelevant there at all. I've seen some pretty cool things. I've tried some cool things myself. I really like this hero. Not insanely special, but absolutely good, absolutely solid. On to the next one. You can see we're really entering that good stuff now. We're on to our A+ and higher quality heroes. Who is it going to be? We're in our top 15 now. We have got Midan. Midan is a hero at this point in the game with how hot Semra, Titanic Ruins, Guild Boss 2 is right now. If you are one of the people that is unfortunate enough to not have her, you are really feeling it now because she is an extremely good cleanser. And cleansing is absolutely necessary for Phase 3 of Titanic Ruins, Guild Boss 2. Midan overall is just a very good healer. I don't love the range. She has the same range like Element without any of the crazy stuff Element has, expanding the range, dropping the Wood Elf, so on and so on. But she's just a very solid healer. She does multi-target, again, just like Element. Sorry, she clearly is like in many ways an epic version of Element without all of the insanely OP stuff. She's got the cleansing. She even has an increased defense buff, which is pretty good. Not the strongest thing in the world, but it certainly is something. She's just a really, really steady healer with not the best range in the world and a full cleanse, a full debuff dispel, and that makes her really special in things like the Araka in Phase 1 of that round of Void Rift, and then of course, most importantly, Guild Boss 2, where she's an absolute rock star, kind of a must-have. She is the only non-legendary unit in the game that does a full dispel. The only other non-legendary in the entire game that does a dispel at all is Aaron, who at most can do 2 target dispels. He has a base dispel of 1 target, and then when he ults, it goes up to 2 through his passive. A terrible rare. So basically, aside from very hard to get legendaries, she stands alone as the only proper cleanser in the game, because it's Eluin, who is ultra rare. She's super hard to get. And then it's 2 ancient exclusives in Dasami and Eunomia. This is a superstar hero now, just for that. I'm not going to bring her up to S because it's still niche. Aside from stuff where you need cleansing, she's just solid, nothing more than that. But she's really good. She deserves this A+. I think I had her before Guild Boss 2 as an A, maybe even already an A+, because she's always been relevant. And you can go back, I have the receipts. Since day one, I've been saying there's going to be content where you need a cleanser, and Midan will get a big bump in everyone's estimation. And that day came. For a long time, it was only the Aracha boss in Void Rift. As you can see over here, she still gets an A, but now a huge, essential piece of content, Guild Boss 2. She absolutely shines. So that is going to be our Midan. an excellent cleanser, the only proper cleanser in the entire game that is at all accessible, so that makes her very, very special. Up now, number 14, we have got Estrid. Estrid's a hero I've always liked. She ties for the rarest epic in the entire game. Her rates are absolutely atrocious. She has some big, bulging abs. She hits really hard, proper AoE, and a very cool thing she's got going, a really nice defense break. So if you look over here from Crack, funny name for a skill, each attack launches a 20% chance of inflicting defense reduction, and it's a 30% defense break. That is really relevant because it allows other heroes to do a lot of damage on bosses, for example, or if you need her doing a lot of AoE, she's putting out consistent AoE defense breaks. Combine that with her very, very, very high 5,162 base attack, she can absolutely melt. Where am I talking about? What piece of content? Well, if you have Estrid and you have not yet seen my guide using her in Gear Raid 5, aka Gear Dungeon 2, go check it out. She is freakishly good at the bottom, like the bottom row, which is for many people the trickiest thing. Aside from Ardea, who you're going to see later on this list, who is the best in the game for AoE ground unit melee damage by literally a mile. After Ardea, that insanely rare, ultra rare, ancient exclusive legendary hero, Estrid is the second best in the entire game. She is ridiculous. The AoE is legit. The defense break is legit. You can see she really shines in places where she can be a melee unit dealing crazy AoE, and also against bosses because she is putting on defense break. So she's, attack is king in this game because the attack needs to clear the high defense walls. If you have a defense break and you get those walls lower, you need less attack, or if you have more attack, it means more. So she is very, very relevant. She's very, very good. She's an extremely solid epic. Does she deserve to be this insanely rare that people can go a year without pulling her? I don't know about that, but she's absolutely fantastic. And we are officially on to the very, very good heroes in this faction. Number 13, we've got Krodor. Krodor was our first and so far only permanent traditional style fusion. So that's where you collected a bunch of rares, fused them into epics, and then fused those epics into legendaries. So once you got 4 Dragas, you got yourself a Krodor. I hope you guys didn't miss it. He is an extremely solid and extremely steady tank. The boy has good base stats. You can see defense up almost at 3,900, health approaching 30k. Very, very, very nice. The traditional 19 costs for a legendary defender. He's just really, really solid. If we look at the kind of hero he is, his damage scales off defense. He's not going to do much, but at least it's something. If they ever sort this out and make defense-based damage dealers better, or if they ever make content where you need defense-based damage dealers, he'll become even better, even more relevant. But for now, he's a very, very good tank that synergizes very well in his faction as a Northerner, and extra special, he's a cool ultimate where he gets increased block by 2 and a huge defense boost that's going to last for 15 seconds, can go all the way up to 20 seconds with skill ups. This makes him extra special. Again, just like Aveline, he's a superstar because he's amazing in tank codex. That extra block, so he goes from 3 base to 5 base, throw on a Bastion Ring, we're talking 6 block. It is so relevant. Even the best teams in the entire world, Super Whale Kraken teams, are using this amazing 100% free-to-play fusion tank. They'll definitely bring him back around eventually. All in all, he is just very good. The reason he is much higher than Aveline on this list and a much better grade is outside of just the tank codex, the block codex over here where he is S+ just like her, he totally shines in other stuff just as an extremely solid defender with really good base stats. He's got cool things here with Braveheart. We get some nice condition that helps him out when his HP drops. He's just really, really good. And from his passive Unity Strength, he gets improved reductions and damage dealt when he's close to other allies. He's an excellent tank. There's nothing more to it. At the end of the day, he is kind of just a tank outside of the tank codex where you really need him for the block. So he doesn't shine like crazy like some other tanks you might see on this list, but he's exceptionally good. And I really hope you guys went out there and fused him. Almost at our top 10 now. Number 12 is Elddr, a legendary Lord Ancient exclusive. What is Elddr doing outside of the top 10? I'll tell you guys, Elder's not that great. He's just not that great. He's not bad at all, but his kit is incomplete. If they made him like the legendary Rork, where his damage was also based off of HP, that would be insane, and he would be awesome. Look how high his health is, only 9 points away from 30,000. It could be really nice. He does have good attack, but it doesn't really synergize with whatever the heck is going on with him and this faction. You want him to be a big tanky boy. So if they want him to be a fighter, they should make it so he is rewarded for being absolutely tanky with some bonus damage. Like we're going to see Jira coming this weekend if you're watching this video when it comes out. She is a Northerner that does a really cool amount of damage based off of her HP. If he had something like that, he would be really cool. and would be a lot more usable. But right now, you're mostly just going to use him as a Lord. The kit is good, he puts out big shields, but the damage really isn't there, so it's hard to justify placing him in a lot of content where you can only place 8 units. His Lord skill, this legendary Lord skill, is very similar to King Hearts. In specific content, it's better, but in most content, you're going to prefer King Hearts. The key thing here, of course, is the last line. The attack of shielded faction allies is increased by 20%. Hearts has the exact same thing, but is that the defense is increased by 20%. For a very tanky, supporty, kind of hard carry PvE faction, that increased attack doesn't help too much. However, if you are going to run like a kind of boss damage dealing team and you're going to choose Northerners, not usually the best choice, but if you choose to do that, he is absolutely brilliant for it. You know, if you want to give your Valkyra or your Ardea the best boost possible, he is really good. But all in all, himself as a hero, not that special. So this entire grade really, if I'm being honest, is just based off of his prowess as a Lord. All in all, I think he is the most disappointing of the ancient exclusive legendary lords. These guys are supposed to be absolute superstars, and I actually think they all are. Every single one in every other faction. This guy is just fine, and as you can tell by the list, we haven't said King Hearts yet. And King Hearts, it's not like he's the best lord in the game at all. I still think King Hearts is better because he's just going to be more relevant for a lot of content, because Elddr as a hero is not someone you're really going to want to place. When I actually do go to use him, I just build him as a tank. I just ignore all his skills. The shielding from the ultimate is nice, but basically he's a lord, and then he's a warm body that I can put a lot of HP on to get him going. But keep in mind, unlike Hearts, he's not actually a tank, so he's got insanely low defense. Not that Hearts has such high defense. Hearts isn't such a good hero, but Elddr, just as someone you're going to place right now in the game, is worse. Solidly A+, you'll see it all over. Most of these grades are based on him as a Lord, that great Lord skill. I'll say where he's absolutely amazing, something like Conqueror, he's not going to be the top choice, but if you need a nice DPS Lord for your Valkyra and or your Ardea, he's a brilliant choice. And then where he really shines is going to be PvP content, supporting, again, those amazing heroes like Ardea and Valkyra. AoE Arena, those teams are freakish, where you have an Elder Lord, Valkyra and Ardea, some other nice stuff around it. Still really good in single target, and also very relevant in Guild War. Not as good as King Hearts, but still relevant. He's a good hero, but he's definitely disappointing for someone that is so insanely rare. Sorry to say it, guys. Sorry to Anthony Matos, the patron saint of Elddr, but it's the truth. The truth is the truth. Let's go down now. We're almost at the top 10, guys. We've got Gwendolyn. So our second 250 guaranteed limited hero. We had Falcia before, now we've got Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn has gotten a lot better as the game has continued. On release, she was fine, but now that Valkyra has improved so much, for example, and she benefits so much from giant shields, Gwendolyn has really rose up the ranks. She gives the biggest shields by a mile in this entire game. She is a healer, and she does do a little bit of healing, but at her core, she's absolutely just a shielder, and the shields are monumental. If you can somehow, or you did somehow get her Awaken 1, this is really huge. Frigid Flurry is going to be her passive down here. She puts out extra shields. Being able to give it to an extra enemy is amazing. You want her to give as many shields as possible. Also, if you can get her A3 or A5. She's got amazing awakenings that are going to be very hard to get. She's a limited hero. She probably isn't going to come back until Christmas. But even at base awakening, like the way I have her, it's pretty easy if you can control who is in her range. Basically, you want it to be Valkyra. She's kind of like a Valkyra assistant. You can give such insanely strong, large shields that you can really max out the power of Valkyra and other heroes that are benefiting from the amount of the shield. We have a hero coming called Glacius that I made a video on very recently, just a couple days ago. He will also benefit immensely. You can see how she's going to get better and better and better as the game continues. Also, you don't need that much healing as long as you have one other healer, and you've got someone like Gwendolyn putting out monstrous shields, and they are monstrous. I actually went and gave her that S. She's just extremely solid. I'll tell you, for Gear Aid 4, if you put her on top with Valkyra, you don't even need Dolores. Those shields are so big that the damage output from Valkyra is so insane, you are completely good to go. She's just very strong, very good in Guild Wars, very good in AoE Arena. She's a fairly well-rounded hero. It kind of sucks that you need awakenings to take her to that next level, since they're going to be so rare. It's not like you're going to use your soul stones on her, but you could see how she's already really good and how she can even get better with more content that could come that may be demanding large shields, and she is the best source in the game for that. Who's going to be up next as we enter our top 10? This is where it gets really good. Number 10 is going to be Isolde. So our third lord we covered, fourth if you're counting Dagna, and actually you can see she's ahead of Elddr. So why is that? Isolde just is a hero. Unlike Elddr, Isolde is a hero whose kit actually makes sense with what she does, and she's very helpful. She's not the best tank in the world, but she's a very good one. That good tankage, those good abilities are then paired with a very solid epic level Lord skill. If you need to bring a Lord, I've done many takeovers where there is Elddr. I leave Elddr at home because I'd rather bring Isolde since she's the better placeable unit. Is she the best tank in the world? No, but she's got very good self-shields. The big issue she has is her health is not high, her defense is very low. It is clunky to use her, but when you're endgame or later in the game, you'll have good enough gear to make it work, and she's very helpful. Let's talk about the ultimate very quickly before we move on. This makes her even more special than Elddr as well, because in kind of the North Throne Codex, you'll keep hearing me talk about it, the Tank Codex, she's brilliant because she's an amazing placeable unit, since when she ults, she increases her block by 1. She also does it for every other ally in range, but obviously for that codex, you can't have anyone else immediately adjacent. But she's very strong in this respect, so she's very placeable, very good. She's just solid. She's an S. There's nothing too amazing about her, but it's a good Lord skill that synergizes really well, and she's a lot more placeable than some of these other units. Cough, cough, Elddr. You can see Hellfire Codex, solid S+. That is going to be Isolde. Let's move on now to number 9. Now it's getting really good. Who is it going to be? We've got Nocturne. Nocturne is a totally amazing hero. If you are not lucky enough to have Hex, this guy is as good as it gets for dealing amazing single target magic DPS. Sure, there could be like Soul Cadence, but when it comes to normal heroes, this guy is just brilliant. He's also dual faction and synergizes pretty well in both. He's not too special for North Throne, but it's nice that he fits in there. Infernal, he's going to be a lot better. He deals a lot of true damage with a very unique range. He's just really solid. The attack is about average for a single target legendary mage. He is what he is. The cool thing is going to be that true damage. If you get him early game, he's insanely good because you can ignore crit altogether. Remember, true damage does not crit. As you get later on, you will crit cap him. But the best way is pump that attack to the moon, get him rip roaring fast, and watch him do the trick. With new content, he's gotten better and better as well. Back in the day, he was an A+, now he is an S. Why is that? Guild Boss 2, Phase 2 of Semra with the big shields, the Aegis mode, is the biggest headache ever. You've heard me talk about it ad nauseum. Nocturne is a great choice, especially if you're not lucky enough to have some crazy Supreme Arbiter team led by Praetus. He's going to deal true damage, ignore those reductions, really, really amazing, especially for teams without Lucius. His true damage is very, very valuable. And then another key piece of content, Gear Aid 5, by far the most standard way, almost everyone will do it. You will need 2 single target magic DPS, and he is the ideal second choice after Hex, assuming you don't have someone like Soul Cadence. He is so easy to build for this because you need him nice and tanky, so you can actually put a lot of HP on him. As long as you're balancing that out with a good amount of attack and attack speed, you barely need any crit. I've run Nocturnes on stage 6 of Gear Aid 5, aka Gear Dungeon 2, successfully with like 50% crit. He is really, really good at this and just really good in general whenever you need single target magic damage. Another brilliant example of that is Void Rift. Again, if you don't have Hex, or even if you do, Nocturne is an insanely, insanely good choice. He's obviously godly in faction trials. He works very well in both factions. And for the PvP stuff, he's like fine. He is what he is. He's a very, very solid hero. On now to number 8. We are getting to the end here, folks, getting towards our giveaway question. Who is going to be number 8? It is an epic hero. Olague now newly has become Goldlog with his new skin, which is literally just like him with some gold trim, but it is what it is, baby. Olague is a 100% free hero. Fun fact, he was not free when I started playing the game, but now you can get him right off the bat by doing your first clear of the first part of Phase 1 of the easiest level in Void Rift. The fact that he's free and the fact that he is this good is just amazing. Olague is extremely simple. Let's see how quickly we can do this. He has an auto passive called Silver Shield. With skill ups, this will become every 11 seconds, he casts a shield for himself that can absorb damage equal to 80% of his HP. It's like clockwork. Every 11 seconds, never ult with this guy. Never do it, because then he's not going to do his Silver Shield. Just stick with this. Well, I should say, for Tank Codex, Hellfire Codex, Block Codex, then you will use the ultimate. More on that in 1 second. But in general, you just put him down, you forget he's there, do not click the manual ult. He'll just keep self-shielding and self-shielding and self-shielding. He is the easiest tank carry, including legendaries, in the entire game when you first get him. He is just plug and play, beautiful, a shockingly, shockingly solid tank. Look at them grades back here. I will quickly say for Hellfire, he gives himself 1 extra block when you do his ultimate. That's the only situation, basically, you will ever do that ultimate. There are increased reductions that do come with his ultimate. In almost all content, it is not worth getting those reductions while giving up the constant shield spam. That's what makes him such a cheat code. That's what makes him so good. That's what makes him so easy to use. God, you gotta love Olague. I think he carried literally all of us for so long. Number 7, we're getting towards that top 5. Our final Lord, all the way down at number 7, King Hearts. The Lords in this faction are the worst in the game, guys. None of them are very good placeable units. King Hearts gets the number 1 spot out of the Lords because he is the most placeable and he does have the best Lord skill. But those are not the highest bars to clear because the Lords in this faction, as it stands right now, are just not that good. He is a basic tank. He doesn't do much at all to help himself, take less damage, putting up reductions, giving himself any big shields. There's solid shields from the ults, but there's nothing too cool. He can put out freezes, but there's almost no content where you really need it. Basically, it comes down to he is a tank. He has legendary tank stats. They're not that high, but at least they're better than the epics. And his Lord skill synergizes best with the faction. The defense of shielded faction allies is increased by 20%. It's not that special. No, not at all. But it's something. Also, I will mention him and Elddr have a cool condition where periodically they grant all allies, not just faction allies, shields. The shields for the faction allies are going to be stronger. Let me move myself for just 1 second. But you can see over here, other allies will still get half that quality of shield. That can be really good. And that is probably the one thing I'd say that makes Elddr in some ways better than Isolde. But for most content, you can get away with just Isolde, and then you're going to want to place her where you won't want to place Elddr. Hearts, you will place the most, but he just has bad stats. 26.5 HP for a legendary tank is not high. Defense at 3.6k. It's not terrible, but it is really not high. He's just not that special, but he's absolutely solid, and that's good enough because he's a legendary lord. Am I happy that I have him? Kind of. Am I happy that I have him A1? Absolutely not. Do I ever want to pull him again? No, not really. His awakenings all kind of suck. He's not that special at all. He's pretty darn disappointing. The fact that he's a tank legendary lord and so many tanks, including epic tanks, do the job of tanking better. Olague is a much better tank than him. It's really disappointing. The Lord skill, though, is pretty good. The legendary lord quality, 15% attribute boosts to his faction allies. That's nice, so you'll use him. I use him. I don't like it. He is what he is. S overall, you'll see, pretty darn steady. One annoying thing in his kit that I will show you really quickly is over here. He is very good. He's the best lord in the game for Hellfire Codex. You'll probably still bring Isolde just as a unit unless you're absolutely goated in your team selection. The one thing here, if you get him A1 like I happen to have him, Fury of Winter generates a shield to protect all surrounding allies within one adjacent tile. This could be so good to get bonus shields in Tank Codex, except, oh wait, you'll never have adjacent allies because of where you're able to place units. To me, that was so disappointing. I'll give him one final shout out. He's very good in Guild Wars, one of the best lords in the game for Guild Wars. Not the absolute best, the best of the Northerners, and very solid. Some of those Northerner teams are absolutely deadly, and usually the best ones, King Hearts is leading them. Let's go now. We're getting so close to our top 5. We have got Maul, one of the absolute best epics in the game. This is an AoE marksman. We don't have to spend too much time on Maul. He's just simply awesome. You're going to want to get awakenings on him. With those, he starts getting excellent crowd control. Not only is he going to do knockback that he has built into his ultimate, but it has a freeze. At A3, he's going to start doing slows. He gets some penetration. And then at A5, he becomes a 17 cost AoE marksman. That is unheard of in this game. The base for AoE marksmans, both epic and legendary, is 22 cost. He gets the -5 cost from the A5. That makes him super special. Outside of Nyx, for me, he is the best AoE marksman in the game, bar none. The damage is good enough. He gets his job done. Doesn't matter that he's not a piercer. He does an excellent job with that extended range just by being an AoE marksman. Let me show you that right now. You can see that ultimate. It's that big old 5x3 rectangle with the awakenings, which you will get. He's not a very rare epic at all. He's fairly common bucket. You're going to get freezes. You're going to get slows. He has knockback. He has AoE. It's a fairly low cost on the ultimate over here. You can spam that thing. He's really, really solid. Not much more to say. We'll show you the tier ratings really quickly. He is a decided S+. He is really, really good in so much content, and he's so free to play viable. I love it. On to the top 5. I can't wait. Let's finish this thing off. Who is it gonna be? We have got Marri, a day three login reward hero. All you gotta do is sign in for 3 straight days. She is coming in at number 5. How impressive is that? Marri is simple and she is brilliant. She's got slows built into her kit. We'll go to that basic attack, inflict slows on the target each attack. Additionally, there's a 35% chance to get icicles out there, which is going to do even more slows. She does big AoE slows essentially all the frickin' time. She can do giant freezes with her ultimate. And then on top of all of that, she has extremely good, extremely consistent debuffs she places in the form of physical damage vulnerability and magic damage vulnerability. If I pick myself up once again, you will see that this can go all the way up to 20%. It leads to a big damage boost for your team. Basically, the enemies just take more damage. She is so consistent at it. She's so consistent with her slows. That kind of crowd control enables a lot of cool things and a lot of cool comps. Looking at the cultists, she's 100% free to play, and she's amazing. She's really easy to build as well, guys. It is worth mentioning, just put her attack speed to the moon, her rage regen to the moon, and just make sure she has enough HP to not die. You are good to go. She is so good in so much content. I will quickly say, when you do start pulling her, the awakenings are very good. The increased blizzard duration, so the freeze on A3, that's going to go up 1 second, and then A5, all of her freezes and slows are going to be up another 1 second. It's just too good. Like, she's so flipping good. A decided S+ for guild bosses. She's really good because of those vulnerabilities. For a lot of PvE content, she's also really good because of the crowd control. I will give her a quick shout out for Void Rift. Phase 2 of that one rotation that has Crimson Star in it. She is unmatched. I don't even use tanks because she slows people so aggressively and so consistently. She's a hard carry in faction trials and campaign. She's just awesome. And then I'll say, in anti-air, I have a very good team, and to this day, I still use Marri. She's so good. Guild Wars, she's an absolute pest. What a brilliant hero. It's so cool that in a game like this, we get a hero that's this good, 100% free on our third day, just for logging in. The last 4, you can probably already guess who these guys are going to be. Vortex, the final epic on the list, and a total freaking god. Vortex, I almost considered putting him higher. He is simple. He does a lot of heals. He's got good multipliers. Build him fast with a ton of HP. The fact that he is HP based makes him much easier to build and makes him much harder to kill. So he's going to be a key component in your team. Enemies won't just pick him off like they do with some of those attack-based healers. And then, outside of someone like Gwendolyn, or if you want to use Camille or blah, 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 it's not really going to happen. Most people, if you need shields, you are going to use Vortex. He is so freaking good at it. I absolutely love this guy. His awakenings are great. He just gets better and better and better throughout the game. He lasts well into the end game. He is such a hard carry. I love him. S+, he's good in basically everything. He's got what I have decided to call forever now, Vortex range. It's the same thing just like what we saw with Gwendolyn, or someone like Farsea has that. It's his signature range, man. He covers so much. He unlocks everything for you in this game when you get him. I love him. I love him. Let's go to our top 3. Drum roll, please. I think you guys probably know who these 3 are going to be in order. Number 3 is going to be Brokkir, the best tank in the game outside of a couple key legendary lords that are insanely rare. Brokkir is a freak. He's got great base stats at 28.7 with defense over 4,000. He's got amazing reductions built into his kit, a talent that leads to direct reduction in damage taken by adjacent allies. When he is inflicted with freeze, and he does freeze himself, he reduces not just his damage taken, but also those adjacent allies' damage taken to 30%. It is so good. He can freeze himself all the time. Freezing breath over here. Receiving damage can also inflict freeze upon the enemies, so he's got some crowd control. And then a key thing that really makes him shine, this is kind of a necessity for a lot of tanks to be really, really great, really high rated. When he receives fatal damage for the first time, he does not die. He freezes himself, which means he's not really going to take damage because that's a key part of his kit. He's immune to all damage for 8 seconds. You can get this thing all the way up to 12 seconds. What a freaky guy. Also very strong awakenings. He only gets tankier and tankier. He can put out more freeze, more crowd control. He is decidedly as solid a tank as we have inside this entire game. A total freak. What do you need to know? Even crazy things like Conqueror, right? Those damage mitigations, he's completely essential, completely key. He can shine just about everywhere. Just such an annoying nuisance in Guild Wars. A truly incredible hero. Our top 2, you know who they are going to be. Our long-range fighter girls with the AoE. We've got a magic version, and we've got a physical damage version. We got Valkyra and Ardea. Oh my god, both of these guys have dual faction membership in the 2 ultimate exclusive factions. Arbiter for Valkyra, Chaotic for Ardea. And it makes sense, because these guys, they are on another level. These 2 girls are completely insane. Fun thing to talk about with Valkyra is she was always good, but never like insanely amazing special. That all changed as we started getting more and more and more endgame content. She's got crazy AoE magic damage, that comes already from her basic attack. She even puts out 15% magic vulnerabilities, increased magic damage taken. She can deal tons of post-deployment attack boosts on herself from her Swords of Victory passive. Just amazing. And she even has this pick-me-up revive ability over here in Miracle. This is most relevant in GVG, where she's absolutely amazing. She is such a good hero. Her awakenings are really good too, especially if you can get her A1, increase that basic attack range by 1. Really helpful for things like Gear Raid 4. You can see S+, good in tons and tons and tons of content. Gear Raid 4, she's probably the third best DPS, third best overall hero in the entire game. She shines in a lot of other things. See, there's a lot of S+s here. Absolutely freakish and conquer with consistent, crazy AoEs. And then I want to say, Guild Wars, this girl is so flipping good. Valkyra is a brilliant hero, and it's really cool to see because she's like one of the faces of the game, right? The way I think of it, it's like King Hearts, Deimos, and Valkyra. They're the ones we're always seeing around on artwork and stuff. At least maybe Leia too a bit. I don't know. Valkyra, she's like our patron saint of the game. She comes and talks to us. I'm so happy she became amazing, and she is legitimately amazing. But she is number 2. Number 1, I do not think this is going to surprise people, a triple S hero in my books, and that is Ardea. The only knock against Ardea, literally the only knock against Ardea, is she cannot hit airborne units. If she could, they might have to remove her from the game. She is that strong. She is good at everything. She puts out bleeds. She puts out crazy AoE. Her stats are literally through the roof. Her multipliers are literally through the roof. It is so easy to build her. Her dual faction works very well for both. You know, the shields from Northerner help her from dying, and then there are a lot of nice chaotic units that keep her from dying, but you want her on the verge of death because the damage goes up, 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 up. Look at these base stats. 27.4k HP on a fighter that isn't a tank fighter. This isn't Abomination. This isn't Elddr. This is a straight up DPS lady. And then the highest base attack in the game, 7,976. A total freak. She is so good. Triple S, she is just goated across the board. Guild Boss 2, she's incredible. Gear Raid 1, she literally allows you to speedrun it. Gear Raid 2, it takes a build. You can main DPS her, even all the way up to 221. Gear Raid 4, you can't use physical damage. Gear Raid 5, for what she does, she's the single best in the game. AMR, she might be the best hero in the game. Void Rift, as long as there's no airborne units, she's the best option you're going to have. Campaign, a freak. Faction Trials, a freak. Will only become freakier once they add a chaotic Faction Trials. Conqueror, about as good as you're going to see. It's like her and Cerberus lead the pack, lead the way. Styx, very solid, but not so special. Arbiter, she's got the bleeds, who really cares. Guild Wars, freak. Single target arena, freak. AoE arena, freak. She can't hit airbornes. What a ridiculous unit. Amazing in PvE, amazing in PvP. That's going to be our list, guys. The top 24 ranked worst to first Northerners. And that is going to be the end of part 2 in this series. We did Nightmare yesterday. We did Northerner today. So now for the giveaway. We have a giveaway at the end of every single one of the videos in this series where we're giving 3 people 200 diamonds each. I know it's not a ton, but these triple giveaways are happening 9 different times, 1 for each faction, 1 for each video. So to participate in this giveaway, please leave your UID in the comments and answer the question, who is your favorite Northerner, and tell me why. And be sure to actually tell me why. A lot of people at the Nightmare one were not explaining. I'm not going to consider it if you don't have a little explanation. It doesn't have to be the best prose in the world, or you don't have to write me poetry, but I want to know who you think, and I want a brief explanation. Then you'll automatically be entered, and we will pull the winners in 48 hours. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I've been Fastidious. If you like my stuff, be sure to give it the thumbs up, click the notification bell, subscribe, share it with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.